Howdy, it's Lisa with Quilting in the Valley once more. We're going to talk about part two actually, because we already did part one, but this is the first thing you do for quilting accuracy, making sure that your quilts come out perfectly at the end. The very first thing you can do is to make sure that you cut right. How do you cut right? You make sure that your tools are accurate. So the very first thing you're going to start with is your cutting mat. There are two different kinds of cutting mats and the way that they process them. One is a stamped mat. So there's a thing from above and it's got the ink on it, comes down and it stamps. And then there's a rolled mat. So there's a big drum that the ink comes off of and the markings come off of, and the mat rolls under it and it rolls the markings on it. The rolled mats, as you might imagine, are not as accurate as the stamped mats. So nothing ever moves on the stamped mat. How do you know you have a stamped or a rolled mat? Well, the first thing you might want to do is take your ruler, line it up with the lines that you have on your mat, and make sure that everything is exactly the same. If it is, you've probably got a stamped mat. The stamped mats typically are the heavier duty mats, the ones that are typically double-sided. This is a Creative Grids mat. This is a Martelli mat. The AccuQuilt mats are stamped. Precision piecing mats are stamped. The Tulip Pink mats are stamped. So any of those will be good mats for you. Measure. Never use your mat unless you've measured and you know your mat is accurate. Then you can use your mat for measuring. Rulers. Get yourself a decent ruler. The rulers that you've heard advice on putting a rock on the end, you don't need to do that. This ruler, this is a Quilter Select ruler, and it has a non-stick coating, or not a non-stick, a stick coating on the back. Gesundheit. And this grips your fabric. So your ruler will not slip on your fabric. So you can cut one straight cut on this and your ruler's not going anywhere. There's no miscuts with this. Even if I'm a short person, if I'm like this and I'm pushing on the end of this mat with my rotary cutter, it's gonna grip my fabric. You don't need to be messing around with rocks or weights or anything on the end of your ruler. Use a ruler that grips your fabric. It'll save you a ton of money in miscuts. Quilter Select is, in my opinion, the best one. It's got coating all over it and it really holds on. Creative Grids has non-stick places all over their mats. And then ODIF, O-D-I-F, makes a product called Grippy that you spray on the back of your slippery rulers that will make them not slippery. It's similar to this. So if you have a slippery ruler, get yourself some ODIF. I believe it's what, like $9.99 a can, something like that. Not bad, and it'll last you forever. Okay, the other thing is make sure that you have a rotary cutter that fits your hand well. This is one of the more inexpensive rotary cutters. It is not ergonomic, so you have to watch how you hold your hand when you use this one. That's not out of the package because I don't like that one. I like this one because it's ergonomic. So it is shaped to fit your hand and to keep everything in alignment here. So you're not doing like this or like this. You're kind of in alignment with this one. If you have your cutting surface at the right height, it's going to be, this is a little low for me. It should be about where your arm comes down like this. It should be about here. So this is a little low for me, but you know, I can make this work. You don't want to get too low or your back will be killing you. So take your rotary cutter, start off the fabric, slide straight through. Just one straight line. And keep that wrist straight so you avoid strain in here. Nice cut. You see that it stuck to my ruler. That strip pulled off because it stuck to my ruler. So, blades for your rotary cutter. And there's a bunch of rotary cutters on the market. Get the one that fits you. There's several of them that have handles like this that are ergonomic. This particular one, when you let go of the handle, it automatically retracts, which is nice, especially if you have kids or cats or dogs around that might knock it off. Anyway, get yourself a decent blade. If you're having to saw through your fabric, you're not making an accurate cut. That's going to make a huge difference in the end result. So if you think about it, if you have a quilt and you have a block And in your block you have, maybe it's a 9 patch, so there's 2 segments plus the 2 seams on either end. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 seams that you have to accommodate for. And let's say of those 4 seams, you've got 6 blocks going across. So 6 times 4, that's 24. You have 24 seam intersections. If you're off by 1/8 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch for every one of those seam intersections, it's 3 inches. That's a 3-inch difference in your quilt. If you're only off by 1/16 of an inch, that's 1.5 inches. So it's significant. Make sure you're cutting as accurately as you can, because that makes all the difference in the end. So get your good blade so that you're not having to saw through. You should be able to do 1 cut and you're through. It should be a clean cut. If you've got threads left you have to pull off, you've got a nick in your blade, replace your blade. One of the less expensive things you can do. Fabric is expensive. These blades last a lot of fabric. So for a $13.99 yard of fabric, one of these blades, this is an endurance blade, and this is a 2-pack, and it's $24 or $28. So it's $14 a blade. You can cut a lot of fabric with 2 of these blades. If you don't mess up your fabric, you save money in your fabric. Get a good blade. Get a good ruler. Get a good mat. Take your time. Cut accurately makes all the difference in the world. We'll see you next time with part 3.